Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, man. I'm so excited today. I have got the original, the OG, in my opinion, from YouTube, Mr. JENSEN, the Flukemaster. Somebody that I'm just excited to be here. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time. You're kind of traveling in and about my area, and you said you would stop by, and so I'm very, very humbled, very thankful that that you'd stop by and take the time with me. So thank you very much for that, first and foremost. But I got to tell a little story on him first. I got to tell a story. So Gene, like, if you guys have been on YouTube, I don't know, forever, or maybe not any at all, like when I was first getting on YouTube, Gene, the Flukemaster, like, that's what everybody talked about. That was like, he's been doing it for 12 years. YouTube's barely 12 years old. And I called him 3-4 years ago, and I asked him about it. I happened to get your number from I really don't even know how I got your number, but I twisted some arms. Somebody finally gave your number up. And Gene answered the phone, and I introduced myself, and he said, well, yeah, you can do YouTube, but you better be willing to do this, 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 and this, this, this. And like 30 minutes later, he got done telling me all the stuff and how much work it would take 3 or 4 years ago. And like, he just like, I was like, I don't know that I can do all that. And then I started my YouTube channel maybe a little over 1.5 years ago. And I'm getting to sit here next to the guy that had a big part of it. And thank you for taking time to sit down. I want to ask you, you know, a big part of our followers is like, you know, just like your followers, they're wanting to learn about fishing, they're wanting to get into fishing. But a lot of our followers are like tournament anglers, and they want to know how you get started. Or maybe they're not tournament anglers, maybe they just want to have a part of the industry. And that's what I want to ask you. Like, you've got a really cool background that I've learned about you today. Like, super cool in my opinion. Yeah. And so I want to ask and just hopefully tell our viewers how you got to where you're at today. I mean, because you're very, very successful at what you do, and it's a neat story. So,
there's, and a lot I haven't told you, there's little baby steps that happened even 4 or 5 years prior to YouTube even being a thing that just got my mind rolling in that direction. The one thing that always pops into my head, you know what the bull shad swim bait, right? Well, Mike Buke has been a friend of mine since long before he started making swim baits. And years ago, we were talking, and he was the only professional that I knew of that was sponsored by some of the biggest companies in the industry and did not fish tournaments. Now, I know I'm not the best tournament angler. I struggle a lot. I'm like a creep. I'm a squirrel. And so I'll get my head out of the game a lot when I'm fishing tournaments. But I asked him, I said, well, how do you do it? He says, dude, you've got to find your niche. You got to find your...
That's what you told me when I called you.
You got to find your only niche. And the thing is, and he pictured it like this. He says, you got to picture the tournament world like this sea of people. All of them saying, hey, sponsor me, or hey, I want to, you know, you got to be the one that's holding this big sign up that everybody can see that are up on the stage in front of you that are picking anglers. You got to do something different. And I was like, man. And so I just kind of kept that in the back of my head. And then I started a little bit of guiding at a private resort. Basically, I wasn't a guide, I was a caddy. I was just a fishing caddy is all I was. Put worms on hooks and hand it back, you know, that kind of stuff. But I learned that I really love to teach people how to fish. And things started rolling. And then YouTube showed up, and I was a scoutmaster, and I had some Boy Scouts that wanted to learn how to fish. But I worked weekend nights, and I'm like, man, I can't take you fishing on the weekends.
Let's just back it. What'd you do weekends and nights? Because I think that's very interesting.
So I was an X-ray tech, and I did 6 years in the Army as an X-ray tech, and then got out and got a job at the Medical College of Georgia, which I don't know what the name of it is now. It's changed like 5 times. But anyway, it's a trauma center. So I worked weekend nights at a trauma center. There was only 4 people on staff as X-ray tech, so I got to see some really fun stuff. And I got a lot of stories I don't like to tell. And so having that schedule of Friday night to Monday morning, I worked 40 hours during 10 and 2:15s. I had Monday through Friday off to go fishing. Well, my fishing partner, a lot of you guys in the Augusta area will know him as Bobby Smith, Pastor Bobby. We fished every Monday. I'd get off work, I'd go home, grab my tackle, go to his house, jump in his boat, and we'd go fishing every Monday, and he would get me back on that daytime schedule. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was filming. Friday, I was sleeping, getting ready to go to work, and then while I was at work, I was answering questions on YouTube and doing all kinds of other stuff. It's just, that's just how it rolled. I mean, and I found out fairly quickly that I have a God-given talent to teach. I'm not a great angler. I'm an okay angler. I've taught myself a lot, but I love to teach people. I taught Sunday school starting at 16 years old. And so I've always loved to teach, but I love to teach and keep myself at the same level. I don't ever talk down to people. And that's not me. That's not me trying that. It's God has actually given me that skill to be able to teach and not make somebody feel little, you know? And so I have 780 videos that teach people how to bass fish, you know? It's crazy.
One of the original YouTubers, without a doubt. That's pretty cool. How'd you get the name Flukemaster?
Oh gosh. You remember the forum days? Bass Resource, Bass Fishing Homepage.
Okay, yeah.
So I joined Bass Fishing Homepage way back in the day. And they made you pick a name. And I'm like, I was totally new to forums. I'm like, I gotta pick a name, a screen name. So this was the period of time where everybody was calling themselves Master. You know, that's, you know, Ed Bassmaster on YouTube. Anybody know Ed Bassmaster? Yeah. Same thing. He had a name that he picked in bass fishing forums and it stuck. Well, with me, I picked Flukemaster. So fast forward 10 years and that name stuck with me. Now, the original name of my channel was not the Flukemaster. It was the Fishing Partner.
Didn't know that.
For the first 2 years. Well, my buddies at Bass Resource were like, dude, you're an idiot. Basically what they told me, you're dumb. And they said, your brand is Flukemaster. You need to change your name, your channel name, to Flukemaster and make people easier to find you. So I did, and it stuck. I didn't want it to be, but it stuck. So,
so it's not like, I mean, when I think of, I just like, that's not your, you know, some people throw a fluke all year long, you know, it's not like.
No, so it was in 2002, and so I was just learning how, I wanted to get to the point where I could catch a bass every time I went fishing. And I had found the fluke, not the super fluke, not the super fluke jig, but the fluke. And I was wearing them out from the bank with a fluke. And I was like, man, I want to give myself some motivation. So I'm going to call myself the Flukemaster, which will make me become better at the fluke. And I think that was kind of,
cool.
You know, it just stuck.
Cool.
So
That's cool. That's super cool. Yeah. So you got 4 kids, I understand? And
yeah, 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. 19, the 3 boys are the oldest. And I actually had the 2 oldest boys who named my daughter. So they kind of have ownership. They kind of take care of her. So, but 19, 17, 13, and 12, or she just turned 12.
So who's got the biggest fish in the family?
Besides me, it would have to be, oh gosh, it's probably a tie between my 2 oldest, Jake and Jordan. Okay. Jake's got the biggest bluegill. I do know that. It was 2 pounds, 1 ounce.
It's a big bluegill.
But the lake I used to guide on, the private lake, was the #1 bluegill lake in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were catching average 1.5 pounds, 1 in 20 was 2+. So unheard of, but they were giants.
So back to the original question there. So you quit being I picked up talking to you. You're in Hawaii, stationed in Hawaii with the Army for a while, X-ray tech. How did you go from being an X-ray tech to a full-time fisherman? I mean, how hard was that when you told your wife, or like, tell us about that transition from having an excellent job, and you know, in my mind, an excellent, you're getting a great paycheck every week, you're off 4 days a week, to, hey babe, I'm gonna give this job up and I'm gonna go be a YouTube fisherman. Back when really there wasn't a lot of YouTube, I mean.
It's true. The biggest thing is, I didn't quit my day job before I could. And that's what I tell about a lot of guys, you know, especially the young guys. Go to college, get something that's going to bring in some money, and then, you know, while still pursuing your fishing career. Very few people can get through the other way. And so don't quit your day job. And I didn't until 5 years ago, and I've been doing this for 12 years now. So we had those arguments, my wife and I, when I was still spending more money on tackle and more money on camera gear and more money on this than I was making anywhere. We had that disagreement. We've been married 21 years. And I told her, I said, look, something is happening with this YouTube thing. Because at the beginning, you couldn't make money on YouTube when I started. I didn't get my first check for 4 years. So I'd been making videos for 4 years without even knowing I could get paid. And so, but I told her, I said, look, this is going somewhere. Because I'm a people watcher, so I was watching people on forums. They were more interested in the videos than they were in the written text, and I just, one thing after another, and I'm just like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So the difference between me and a lot of the other YouTubers that started back then is I'm the one that didn't quit. That's the only difference. I'm the one that stuck with it and kept putting out content, not because I knew I was going to make money, but because I love to teach people and I want to reach that one person that wants to be taught. And that's the way I still am. I get my kicks off the stories.
Yeah.
I literally get, that's my motivation. The stories, the
somebody that comes up to you and says they had success from a
yeah,
video.
or you taught me how to
yeah,
fish, or the emails I get
I
from
enjoy
moms,
those a
or
lot.
that kind of stuff. It's just fun.
That's super, super cool.
Yeah, that's the good part.
Super cool. So you've got the name Flukemaster.
Uh-huh.
Not really your go-to bait, you know. So what is your bait? Like, what is your favorite technique? What is your favorite? Like, if, hey, you know, tomorrow's your last day on this face of the earth, how are you going to go catch them?
Oh gosh, I hate that question because there's one reason. I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody. My favorite bait is the one the bass wants.
I'm with you.
100%.
Yeah.
You agree
We're
with
not
me.
catching them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I let the bass tell me. But if right now, and it all depends on the season, the time of the year. You know, right now if I have to go catch one to live, it's going to be a trick worm. And it's simply going to be a trick worm because before the wacky rig Cinco, we were wacky rigging trick worms because you know, and
to get a bite. That's
to get a bite,
great bait.
I'm just going to throw a straight tail worm, something that has a straight tail because you can do so much with it. My love is a jig. If you want to see me get all giddy like a schoolgirl,
Really?
I love to get that jig bite. Just gets me going.
Like 3/8, half ounce.
It doesn't matter. Just the bite itself.
Flipping jig.
I'd like to drag my jigs mostly.
It's more of a football jig. I'm
Yeah,
asking?
football. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
What's your favorite color?
Black and blue.
Black and blue.
Yeah.
What's your favorite trailer?
Either Rage Menace or something that's got a lot of kick. It really doesn't matter. I look at the claws and I want something that has a lot of kick. Wintertime.
So what pound test are you throwing it on?
17,
Big line.
20.
Yeah.
Well, the lakes I fish jigs on, I'm usually jacking like 6 to 8 pounders. So yeah, it's
Big fish.
yeah. I want them, and I got to get them up out of the rocks. So
I need to go to that lake.
yeah, you're gonna cut. Yeah,
I need to go to that lake.
I might lose a whole lot of friends if I bring you there, but
I need to go to that
it's
lake.
a public lake. It's not a
Okay,
private lake, but I'll
okay.
lose friends if I
I
bring you
need to
there.
go to that lake. Okay, so Gene, you've been doing this YouTube, you know, a long time. Tell me, what was that moment that, like, you made it, or like you switched over from an X-ray tech to making it as a fisherman? Because you know that's a cool moment in anybody's career. You know, when you got the job as an X-ray tech, you got those first payments coming in. When did you feel like you were good at YouTube, or what was that defining moment that this is going to work? Or the defining video, maybe, or what? How did that happen? How did you know that? You know, earlier you said 3-4 years down the road, this is when you're going to quit your job.
Yep.
You know, that was in a conversation we had earlier in the house. He knew exactly the day he could quit his job, just how the growth of YouTube was working for him. But when did you, like, when you made that decision 3 years down the road that you could quit your job? What gave you that you could make that decision? How did you get to that point?
It was more a goal. It was like I told my wife, I said, look, as soon as I'm making as much money on YouTube and sponsorships as I'm making at my full-time job, that's when I'm going to quit. Okay. That's when I'm going to retire from shooting X-rays. And I had to make and with that goal in mind, we made sure that we were always living within the means of one paycheck. That way we weren't overspending. So all that money that I was making in YouTube up to that point, all that extra money was going in the bank, and we were saving it. But we still made sure we maintained within the means of that one paycheck. And so I had looked at my growth over the years, and I had literally picked within a month of when I was going to quit my job, 3 or 4 years ahead of time, and said, this is my goal. This is because I'm goal oriented, as I've always been goal oriented from when I was an Eagle Scout, the whole 9 yards. But so I said, this is when we're going to quit. And that was my goal. And literally the cards lined up, and 3 weeks after the day that I said that I was going to quit, I walked out of my job.
But what was it that gave you that you said that you could, I mean, did you have a video that, or like,
no.
Wow, what was the first video you were ever the most proud of?
Well, the thing I knew with instructional videos that I would never make a viral video. I would always have growth. People would come and go, and I stayed real. I stayed true to it because I didn't try to make a viral video. I just tried to put the content out. And so I knew that if I stayed true to myself and stayed true to that thought, that I would always it would always grow. You know, my aha moment now, when I felt like I had made it, I got a phone call from a buddy. He's like, I was just driving through the DFW, Dallas Fort Worth area, and there's a billboard with you on it.
What was that
and I'm
for?
like, I've arrived. I was in a Lumacraft. It was a Lumacraft ad,
cool.
and I didn't know. I had no clue it even existed. And I was like, I have arrived.
That's cool. That's cool. That's really cool. All right, so for you viewers that maybe want to be Gene, maybe a young guy's wanting to start his YouTube channel, he's starting to get it to grow. How do they get to this point to where you are so successful?
Until they're making money at it.
Yeah.
I always, when people say, well, I'm about to start a YouTube channel, first things out of my mouth is, why haven't you started yet? Because, you know, every day you say I'm about to start one is one day you're not making videos. Start doing it, learn from your mistakes. That's basic YouTube. You know, learn how to edit. You got all those videos on YouTube now that they're going to teach you how to edit. Learn all the little basics, make your mistakes. My first 20 videos don't exist anymore. I deleted them. They were horrible, but I was learning. You know, that first 2 years, I was learning. And then I got rid of those videos and I started progressing. For the money side of it, with YouTube, don't worry about it. It'll come if you keep doing it. But if you're interested in getting into the industry and into that kind of stuff, Zona told me this. He's like, make yourself so valuable that they can't ignore you. In other words, build yourself up, do things for companies, do things and don't expect anything in return for a while, but keep track of what you're doing. Mike Buca used to send a quarterly report to all of the sponsors he wanted on what he had done. This was before YouTube. What he had done for those sponsors every quarter, even though he wasn't sponsored by them. And eventually he got with a Lucky Craft and a whole bunch of other companies. And that's what you do. You just don't go at your sponsors like you owe me something because I use your stuff. Right. Go at them
that's
like, this is what I'm worth to you.
Yeah.
This is what I can do for you.
Yeah.
You know, because at that point in time when Zona told me that, I was frustrated because I knew that I was valuable. I didn't know how to prove it because nobody in the industry knew what YouTube was. Nobody in the industry understood social media influencer marketing at that point in time. I was 5 to 7 years ahead of everybody. And so, and he just told me to wait. Just wait.
Bide your time.
Bide my time. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'd met Zona through, he filmed at that place I used to guide, so that's we became, you know, became little buddies. But yeah, that's the biggest thing is just we're at a point in time right now that a teenager who has talent and skills at creating content can make a paycheck. Not a huge paycheck, but can make a paycheck.
Supplement your income.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get my son to do. He loves to edit, and I'm trying to get him to do content creation, but he wants to do it without his face. He just wants to do commercial stuff, and I'm okay with that. But we're at that point in time where you young guys have the skills. Even you old guys have the skills.
Right.
You know? So I could go on forever about that, though.
Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. So, you know, being as successful as you've been, was there like a defining moment in your career when you went from the next level, being an expert in what you're talking about, to taking it to the next level? Where did that come from? How did that happen?
You know, and this holds true if you're a tournament angler, if you're a guy who wants to get into tournaments and stuff like that. I did something that totally changed me from being able to just go out there and piddle around and catch a fish every once in a while to being successful nearly every time I was on the water. And it changed my outlook in fishing. One, and a lot of you new fishermen, and even those of us who've been doing it for a while, we get caught up on the bait. We get caught up on what did you use, you know, and you know, for me,
everybody thinks there's a magic bait.
It's right. There's no magic bait. The thing that changed my life when it came to fishing and changed the career was I decided to focus solely on finding fish. I spent 2.5 years literally just teaching myself how to find the fish. And when I started doing that, when I made the #1 priority when I get on the water, no matter whether I've been on the lake or not, whether I fished yesterday or not, my #1 priority is get there, sit down, and go look and find the fish. And look for life and look for things. And I've got several videos that I've talked about that, but that's the trick. You know,
Yeah.
How can Edwin Evers find this mega school in a little ditch in the Mississippi River and catch, how many fish did you catch?
A bunch.
A bunch, you know. How do we go about finding those? You know, sometimes it's dumb luck, but not very often.
I've always heard, you know, 90% of the bass live in 10% of the lake. I mean, and if you're fishing you know, I don't know if that's true, but I feel that way at times, you know.
And the techniques that I like to use work true from a boat, from a kayak, or even from the bank. If you're walking around the bank and you don't see any life in the water or right along the edge of the bank, don't stop, keep going. Yeah. Same thing with boating.
Well, man, I cannot thank you enough for being on the channel with me. It's just an honor to have you here. I wish you all the luck as you go down to Caddo to compete in that national tournament. And it's just, thank you very much.
I'm excited about these next couple of days. It's going to be fun. It beats the heck out of trying to catch them around cypress trees right now. So.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, brother.